Welcome to the podcast. Dude, I actually said that with my producer, Holly, that we were going to start around 3, and you said 2, and guess where the closest time is to?
Sorry, guys. So the life of a racing driver trying to wheel and deal on the fly.
Yeah. You actually got to tell me about that. So what's actually happened the last 2 days? You're obviously at the Central Coast Sports Award.
Yep.
What happened there last night?
Yep. So we were nominated for the Central Coast Sportsperson of the Year, and I actually nominated my dad for Coach of the Year.
Yep.
So he didn't exactly fit into that category, but that was probably the only one. Like, motorsport's a bit left of field. So, but I wanted him to be recognised. So yeah, we came down from Brisbane yesterday. Went to the awards night. We had Nicola McDermott, who's from the coast. She's a silver medalist from the high jump. Most people probably were watching that in COVID lockdown. Matt Graham, Moguls Graham, he's from the coast as well. He's, again, silver medalist in the Winter Olympics. So it was a pretty big spread of different athletes. Molly Picklum from surfing, if you know surfing at all. So just good to be in that room and good to be nominated with them. Unfortunately, Dad and I missed out. Nicola and her coach took out both of the awards that we were nominated for, but when you're up against an Olympic medalist, it's pretty hard.
We were saying off air that it was a bit like a horse race. You're competing against like Olympians. You're an Aussie race car driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you're kind of like the chip in, and you might get there, and you just missed out. Didn't you?
Yeah. I think like on merit, where like I look at it, the best racing driver to come out of the Central Coast is Mark Scaife. Yeah. There hasn't really been anyone to come from the coast since then, and we're really trying to push that because we've got, like being a coastie. I originally grew up in Windsor, McGrath's Hill. Yep. Moved to the coast when I was 7, so I've probably got more coast in my blood. Yeah. And so we want to be those people that represent the coast and put it on the map. So it's hopefully we can be the next Scafey, but at a WTCR level.
Yeah. I actually didn't know before, like when we were trying to line up the episode, that you'd actually moved to Brisbane. When did that all actually happen? Because when I was talking to you during lockdown, you were clearly still in the Central Coast.
Yeah.
So what happened there? Why did you and your girlfriend decide to move up to Brisbane?
I just think lockdown had its challenges for everyone, and it was really hard for Liz, obviously, because all of her family are based up in Brisbane. So like most people who had families in different states, it was just really difficult to see them. And, usually if she was missing them, she could just fly up really quick and say hello for the weekend, but that wasn't possible through COVID. So I kind of went out of, full-time work and transferred to full-time racing maybe 4 years ago or something. So I mainly work from home now and do a bit of driver coaching and stuff. So I'm not tied to the garage and the workshop like I was with Dad and to a workplace. So Liz was sort of like, can we go? And so I said, yep, sure. She's the boss anyway, so she gets to decide. So
she helps.
There was no negotiation in it. We were going. Yeah. So she's there looking at me at the moment. But it's good for both of us. It's a good sea change. It's good for her to be back near her best mates and her family. And I've got Paul Morris who supports me up at Norwell. QR's not far away. Lakeside. There's plenty of opportunities up here.
What's the scenery around for, like, obviously because I'm a Sydney boy, what's the scenery around the Queensland racing scene? Do they all just hang around Queensland Raceway and just cut laps every day? Like, what's the whole state racing scene, the supercars and whatnot?
Good question. The XLs are huge up there. Here, I think Pulsar's probably trump XLs in New South. But yeah, XL scene up there is big. I think every Tuesday or Wednesday, Paul Morris runs an XL tuning day. Yep. So literally, I think if you own an XL, it might even be free. Sorry, Paul, if it's not. Like, it's a small cost to go out to Norwell for maybe 4 or 5 hours of an afternoon. Belt laps around Norwell with another 10 or 12 drivers who want to rock up and do the same with their cars. Yeah. Norwell's a big part of the community up there, and like they do a lot of driver training stuff with the police and learner drivers. So
don't they have Aboriginals and like girls come in as well as separate groups?
Yeah, they have I think it's called Racing Together, where they have an Indigenous team where there's mechanics, there's drivers, there's like crew chiefs, and it's part funded by Norwell, I think it's part funded by a government grant as well to try and help introduce or give opportunity to Indigenous people to come into motorsport. So pretty cool. One of those kids that works in that XL team actually designed the car that Anton raced up at at Darwin when Penske
Really?
had the Indigenous livery. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's a really cool program. So they're doing a lot of good stuff up there, and Paul's backed me with all of my TCR stuff and been a good mentor on that side of it. So it'd be good to be closer to that crew.
Before you're doing the car racing, the motor, like mechanicking stuff, what were you doing as a job before you get into like the whole racing career? What was that for you?
So I was always in metal and engineering, and I really wanted to be a fabricator growing up. Like I wanted to build cars. One of Dad's best mates, Johnny Gray, used to build for HRT and FPR, and is still a very well-renowned fabricator in Sydney. And I sort of wanted to go down that route. So in school, I did metal and fab and was really good at it. I built an enclosed go-kart trailer.
Really?
Yeah, that was my major project.
Wow.
Got a band 6 and 99.
How old were you
99.
then?
16, 17.
Really? Far
Yeah.
out.
So that was good.
90% of those kids wouldn't have built a go-kart trailer back then.
Well, we had a really good class. My mate Jimmy built like a chopper that was not like a motorized one, but like a full custom push bike chopper.
Yeah.
And our metal teacher Richo used to let us like stay back to like 7 o'clock at night. We'd be like welding and stuff like in the middle of the school grounds. And
Wow.
like, he pushed us really hard to have really good grades. There was only like 5 of us there in like a pretty big school doing metal, and we all got. Well, I think all of us got band 6s, and we're all in the paper for the theory side and for the fab side as well. So that was good. And then I went and did a year in Europe, which is like a whole different story. Worked on a super yacht for a year.
Yeah. Not for car racing, just for a super.
Just for that. Yeah.
How did that come about?
So that was through. So my father. We're going very off track here.
Oh, it's all right. We'll go back. It's
I'm a fitter and turner by trade, so we'll cover that off. But yeah, I went. So it was Dad's contact. So he worked for John Goss through many different eras of motorsport. He originally worked for Pete Malloy doing the Ford factory engine program for Moffat and all of those big Ford teams back in the 70s. So like your XY GTs through the XCs and XDs.
Yeah.
And obviously knew John really well. John Goss's brother is a very accomplished sailor and has built up his career in that industry and went to Europe at a pretty young age and ended up getting an opportunity to sail on a yacht and skipper a yacht named Addicks, which Alan Bond used to own in Australia.
Yeah, right.
Then it was bought by a big bank, and the owners of that bank are based in Spain, so we call him Senor. And Paul has worked for Senor for the last 30 years on Addicks, rebuilt the boat.
Yep.
And so when the boat was here in Sydney, I did some work experience on it when I was 16. Dad rebuilt all the engines on the boat. And Paul, we were out to dinner one night down at the Rocks with all the crew, and Andrew, the South African engineer, giving Paul a nudge, saying, in his South African accent, I'm not going to do one. He was like, hey, Paul, you should like get Luke when he's 18.
Yeah.
And Paul was like, yeah, Luke, do you want to come and work on Addicks when you finish high school? And I was like, yeah, sure. And it turned out that they were in Spain by the time I'd finished high school. So
yeah, you're a pretty shy kid though, weren't you? So,
I was, yeah. It was interesting I was coming out of my shell in the back end of high school.
Yeah.
And then living in Valencia and being with a crew of Kiwis who were like had 10 years on me in the middle of their like peak party life.
Yeah.
Was I kind of grew up quick. Yeah. I grew up real quick. Yeah. It was a good year. Yeah.
So we're talking a bit about like the karting days, and obviously you built the go-kart trailer.
Yep.
We actually raced at the same go-kart club. That was my second go-kart club, Newcastle.
Yep.
We have a close mate of ours, well, for me, was Josh Scott.
Yep.
He was actually racing. Was he racing with you as a teammate back then?
Yes, you remember his surname.
Oh,
good.
Mate.
Yes, I was
have
wondering
to do my
who
study
that was.
somehow.
Nice. I'm so glad. He drew Newcastle Kart Circuit in the gravel for me when I was like, I must have been only 12 when we first started.
Yeah.
And we were like, to be honest, we bought the bare basics of karts. And like Josh was like just really genuine and just wanted to help. And And that was when I was really shy too. So yeah, he was really good. I don't know what's happened to him now. Did he ever run Formula Ford?
Yeah, he did. I don't know if you were there, but he actually brought his Formula Ford to Newcastle Kart Club once. And
Really?
It was all orange. Yeah, it was all orange. It was a Spectrum, and I think one of the guys who was a part of Newcastle Kart Club owned it, or like there was a part owner in Newcastle Kart. And he got him started in his car racing career.
Oh, wow.
So he did it similar to you, but you guys went two different paths.
Yeah, very different. Yeah. That's interesting. Where did he go after Formula Ford? Hey, Josh, by the way.
Hopefully he watches this one. He's watched a few of them.
Well, you said he's your mate, so he should be watching it.
But yeah, he did Formula Renault. I do want to get him on this podcast to know a bit about him. But
Nice.
yeah, he did Formula Renault. Obviously, as you know, car racing's hard, and
Yeah.
you guys are both from like the Central Coast, Newcastle way, so it's
Yeah.
hard to get money. And his career just died down, and I think he's just settled down for a family and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
okay. Yeah,
Josh
right.
is a
There you go.
huge fan of the show after a
Yeah.
few people have mentioned his name.
Yeah, right. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so you started your karting career,
Yeah.
and Josh had obviously drawn that go-kart, the circuit in the dirt
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
But was that when you were racing the AX6 Arrow kart?
Yeah.
At the start?
Senior chassis. Yeah.
Senior chassis as a junior.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I was extremely thankful just to have a go-kart, to be honest. Like a lot of people know me for the sponsor hustle these days, and that started being instilled in me from my Uncle Vic back then, who was a very successful business owner and still is of Great Divide Tours.
Yeah.
And he was our first sponsor. So mum and dad, as a 12-year-old, helped me to write a proposal. I did a livery for the kart. Like it was...
So you started when you were 12?
Yeah.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
so you started at the same time, and we
Yeah.
probably didn't meet at the right time.
No, I don't think we did, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it wasn't until you and I touched base again back in Formula Ford and you knew...
I knew who you were.
knew who I was.
Yeah.
But I think because karting kind of didn't, like, jade me or anything, but it wasn't really my scene.
Yeah, same
So,
here.
I kind of, I don't know. Not that I forgot about people, but I just, like, it was... Like, the next time I saw you probably would have been 6 or 7 years later.
Yeah.
And we would have been so different to when we seen each other at the
I
track.
remember the reason I remember hearing about you is because I was doing Stars of Karting, and then Galvo had said, "Oh, hey, there's this Luke King guy coming in here, and he's going to choose between karts and cars." And that's what I heard, and I was like, "Oh, I remember."
Oh, really?
Luke. Yeah. And then you were racing at the go-kart club. You were obviously still a bit shy then.
Yeah.
Never crossed paths, and we were obviously very racy back then. So.
Oh, there you go. Far out. See, I don't ever think that people are talking about me, so I've got no idea. Like,
You've done, but the thing is, like, which is why I wanted to bring you on the podcast, you've done some cool shit around racing. Like, a lot of these people relate to the racing content, which is you've got plenty of.
Yeah.
But you've actually done, I guess, through your girlfriend helping you out, you've actually had a bit of radio like experience too. So how did that thing come with Steve Allen and Liz?
Yeah.
And did that all happen all at once? Or was that just like randomly like an opportunity that they gave you to promote yourself?
Yeah, I think it's all just that progression of the self-promotion because we rely so much on the sponsorship side of things, we have to self-promote. So, like, the more media we can get, the more friends we have in media, the better. And I suppose, me starting to host on SEN track came through my relationship with Steve-O, who, as you know, is announcer at ANZ and Master of Ceremonies for the NRL.
He's got the best sounding voice.
Oh, mate, he cracked us up last night on stage. He's such a funny dude too.
Is he?
And a really good mate, like very genuine guy, and super, like the only bloke that knows everything about every sport.
Yeah.
You know, like I come on the show and I do like a motorsport thing or whatever, but then I listen to the rest of his show and he'll cut across to like lawn bowls and it's like the lawn bowl championships and he knows like who is it, what their scores are and stuff. And he's not like a stats nerd.
Yeah.
Like, but he must watch sport all the time. Like his full-time job is just watching like everything that's on Fox.
Stadium Australia pays him to watch sport.
4 screens going. Yeah. So
how did the relationship with Michael Butner come about? That's just an odd one for me because I've got a relationship with him as a kid where my dad, I told you this on the phone before we organised the podcast, is Michael Butner had actually, I was a Bears supporter. I wore a wear Bears shirt yesterday on the podcast. My dad invited me as a birthday gift. Oh, hey, I've got a footy player because you're big into football. Yeah. And his mate through work knew Mick Butner, and that's how I know of Mick Butner, but I don't actually know him. But you actually know him. So
mate, I can give you a straight up intro. Just come up to the coast and have a drink.
Yeah.
So Butts and Steve Allen ran the sports show on like CFM and Triple M up on the coast.
Yep.
Buttes is, I think he's a coastie. That's why he's there. So, yeah, like it just came about because I would come and guest on that sports show before it got cut, and just got to know him. And yeah, Buttes is the same. Like, has always given us the time of day. Good advice from the sports side. He's already earmarked his spot as like the party organizer for when we get to Europe. Yeah. So he's mentioned it like 4 times on the radio show. So he's coming with us when we go, and he's just going to line up everything after the race meets for us. Yeah. But yeah, Buttes was always hosting with Steve. So that was how we got to know Buttes. And then you'd just be, because we're getting involved in community events and taking cars to promo days for like local partners on the coast and stuff. He was always around. So he's actually almost busted the steering wheel off my simulator at a race event that we did. It was a charity event, and the few years in a row there, I used to pack up my sim and take it to the event. And I'd get people on trying to do like a bit of a Top Gear leaderboard.
Yeah. And that's actually really cool. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it works really well. We do that with our track days as well. We bring the sim and put it in the pit garage.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Buttes gets on and he's like all muscle and like NRL. So, yeah, and he's like manhandling the wheel. And you know what sims are like. You can't exactly.
I was the size of Jack's arm yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's Buttes as well. Like the bloke's doing like 1,000 burpees a day still, keeping fit. So, yeah, no, that's how we know Buttes.
I got to ask, because I was like a massive supporter, even though you weren't racing in Phillip Island. How was that Phillip Island co-hosting? Like, tell me about that. How did that all come about? Because you were supposedly maybe meant to race later on, or you still probably are, but how did that all come with TCR?
Yeah, so that just came through, I suppose, us meeting the guys at Super Cheap up at Bathurst. And when I did the radio promo for them, I actually was singing the current promo and the old school one, because I've watched so much Supercars in my day that I just remember the old Super Cheap.
You love the nostalgia.
Jingle. Yeah. So I think it's you get the lot for less. And then now it's everything auto much, much more. Yeah. Or now it's make it super. So
see, I preferred the third one, the oldest.
Yeah, the oldest one. Yeah, same. Yeah. So I was singing that on the radio, and those guys just really enjoyed it. And then because I knew I wasn't racing, I'd already offered to TCR to do some co-hosting or to try and get involved to help the category. And so, yeah, like it just worked out for me to go down and do a bit of ambassador work for Super Cheap. And I really saw an opportunity, because I was missing out on the first round at Tassie. I thought I would have liked to have seen more social on the Friday to understand, like, because you know how Formula One, like, we're so spoilt with F1 and Supercars.
Yeah. There's so much content for those two.
You see everything, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there at Tassie wondering what the hell is going on the Friday, and all I've got is Natsoft live timing.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if I'm not running, like, I know all the privateers and even the big teams need help to, you know, promote their sponsors and stuff. So I thought, I'm just going to offer my services to get in front of the mic. Yeah. Keeps my face out there. It's good for the category to kind of do a debrief of P1 and P2.
Yeah.
And I sort of wanted to do it like a bit of a Ted's Notebook.
Yeah.
Because I think that style is cool, like a Martin Brundle grid walk where you're just like rocking into a garage and you're like, hey mate, what's going on? So like the Wally one was cool when we walked into the transporter and he's like folding up his setup books and you got Fabian and Zach in the background. So yeah, I think it was just a good opportunity to do something for the category. I know all the privateers really appreciated it because I made sure to get some sponsor plugs in for their guys.
Yeah.
And like when we get back into TCR, those people are our competitors.
Yeah.
But we need good competition. We need sponsors. Even if they're not sponsoring me, we need sponsors in the sport to grow it, right?
Yep.
And so people are quite protective over sponsorship, as they all should be.
Yeah.
But I think if you've got a good core group of people in a category where everyone can help each other and trust, I think it works out for everyone. So
we'll go back to where we would go. We've gone way off topic.
We've
sped through a lot of your career here, but we'll go way off. What with your karting career?
Yeah.
Do you remember like much of it? And do you remember like did you have any rivalries or anyone that you looked up to though on the track? Like I know you had a few friends, you know.
Yeah. I think Josh. I followed Josh for a bit there where I could. Social obviously wasn't as big back then, but you heard about results and things like that.
Yeah.
Look, I think who else was there?
You're with Precision. Were you with Precision Motorsport at the gate?
Yep. Doug used to help us quite a bit. It'd be Ben Mannix and those guys were like the club heroes type thing. Matty Harrison was really good.
Steely not at Barnes, was he around there when?
Who was that?
Steely. No, obviously wasn't for years.
No, he wasn't.
So you'd gone to cars by then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Nathan Taylor, who runs Cartworks now. Yeah. He was always really good and up there. So
that's what I love about Newcastle and the coast, though. Everyone's so loyal to each other.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different headspace.
Yeah,
it's
it was chill. Good. Yeah. Like those few mates that I mentioned. Zach, I race against Zach Caban as well.
Yeah.
You know Zach?
Yeah, Zach Caban.
Yeah,
he loves a chat.
He froths it. Yeah. He loves a Facebook post too.
Oh yeah, I know. He doesn't keep it simple. He keeps
never
it like
does.
he has to keep it all the facts and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
What does he like? Home and away or something like that, doesn't he?
Mate,
home and away neighbours or
if it's not a motorsport post, I'm not paying attention to it.
But yeah, you got to tell me though about your dad, because your dad and your granddad. You got to tell me about both of them because they were a huge influence on your career.
Yeah, for sure. So you mean granddad from my dad's side?
Yes.
Yeah. So granddad flew aviation World War II. Flew DC-3s for anyone who's an aero fan. And was a builder. So he was really impressed with like what I was doing, like with fabrication and stuff back in school, and they were helping to kind of fund doing that little build that I did. And obviously BJ, like most people fondly know him as BJ.
Yeah.
His middle name's Bradley James for no other reason. We're not like that in the King family. But yeah, Dad and he's like my best mate. Yeah. You know, like I've been so lucky that I've spent more time with my dad probably than any other kid on the face of the earth, I think. So he, as I said before, did his time working for Pete Malloy, which then transferred into, being stationed with Alan Moffat at a Bathurst or John Goss. Dad put the 1977 1.2 engines together. So Dad was like sussing out what valve springs were the best match across the heads.
He's still like that though. Didn't he help Guido with his Formula One cars as well?
He still does. Yeah, he still does. So Dad and Rodney build the engines for those Formula One cars.
Yep.
So Dad's very heavily involved in the development work that they do behind the scenes down at Superior Automotive. So that's pretty cool. I mean, like he's so experienced with the engine side of things that I don't think I would have ever got as far as I did without Dad and having those contacts. Like, it's fine to say that we weren't from money. The amount of experience that Dad brought to the table and
connections,
the contacts that he had, enabled us to be thrifty with things. And although it takes time to do it yourself, and it's a hard grind doing it in your own back workshop, that's what we did for years. And if my dad was going out to the pub every night or going and having a punt on the horses, we wouldn't have got anywhere.
You wouldn't have the same relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and he was just so committed to it as well. And we've just really enjoyed our
You were
time
pretty
together.
stoked though when you won the Colin Bond Award because your dad had worked with Colin Bond, weren't you?
Yeah. That was actually, it was a big moment for our family. And the previous winners of that award was Brad Shields, Harry Bates. It's a New South Wales based award, and that's why it's named after Bondi because he's from New South. But yeah, Dad worked with Colin obviously in that 77 1.2, a few other projects, but mainly across the Caltech Sierra program. So Dad was building the big Sierra motors back then that they were charging up to like 50-pound a boost for a qualifying lap and just like blowing a motor.
Typical old school racing back then.
Yeah. Almost like time attacking quality. Like that's our lunch motor.
They're keen out there, by the way. They've been practicing and testing and everything. Bart's left me for dead, by the way. He's my driver coach.
I'm sure he has. He's focused.
As soon as time attack comes across, I'm forgotten about for about a week.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, he needs all the focus in that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Flat through turn one at like 300 Ks or something.
Yeah, you might have seen on my Instagram post, like, we've got a good relationship though. Like, people are like, isn't it weird how Bart has to do one thing and then go to you the next week? But we've known each other for so long.
I saw your karting photo with him the other day.
Yeah, he used to come to the go-kart track with me and help prep my kart. So now I've got that connection with him. Like, he'll just do his own thing and come back to me when he's ready.
Nice.
We'll just go and punch.
That's
out a good
good.
result.
Yeah, sweet. Love it.
Yeah. So you were telling me about your grandfather. Was he into rugby league or he played?
Yeah, so that's par on mum and dad's side.
Yeah.
So he played first grade for the Jets and Norths back in like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
So that was Kenny Irvine days.
Yeah.
Kenny Irvine was like,
Were you more into league growing up as a kid or football?
100%. Yeah. I've definitely always been a racing kid. Ever since my first memory is a Matchbox car in the high chair, for sure. And it was probably a Colin Bond Sierra as well.
Yeah.
That Dad brought home. It was a model that actually had suspension on it and stuff.
Right.
Pretty dope. But yeah, rugby league definitely as a young kid because my pa was so big in that scene. And he was part of the reason that we used to get involved with Norths and we used to go down to the white picket fence, the old
So you
ground.
go to North Sydney Oval?
Yeah, we used to be up in the tree watching the Bears.
Were you a Bears fan before the Bulldogs?
Pa tried, because I was a daddy's boy because of the motorsport stuff.
Yeah.
I and Dad grew up in Punch Bowl in Bankstown.
Yeah.
He was Dogs and Pa was Bears. So it was kind of like whenever I saw Pa, I was like, go the Bears. And then when I'd like be with Dad, I'd be like, Bulldogs for life. So yeah, it was kind of a split. But as I got older, it was more Grant that went, like my younger brother went for the Bears and I ended up on the Doggies side. So I mean, Grant's a huge Doggies fan now and follows it closer than what I do.
Yeah.
But he was pretty devo when the Bears went under.
They're still trying to get back now, though.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
They deserve to be back there, and they're such a nostalgic club as well. Like a really good history.
Yeah.
Like one of the longest standing. You know.
I know.
Like,
Kind of reminds you of like Leichhardt Oval, North Sydney Bears. You know, in the North Sydney Bears Oval.
I actually was watching. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I was watching a Netflix doco for the second time called Sunderland Till I Die. And
no, I haven't watched that.
It's about a Premier League team that just gets relegated, and it's about the whole town, and it's a really good story. But I was thinking about that, and I'm like, why can't we have like a Premier League and then like a lower league that still gets televised, like a Champions League, like because you could have Norths and the Jets and whatever. Be bad for us because we finished wooden spooners, so we'd be relegated. But it would give like the Jets and
don't get me started on the Bulldogs.
Yeah, let's not go there. Glory days of 04, long.
I tell you what,
us.
that team's the only thing that gives me hemorrhoids.
Too much information.
They're such a stressful team to follow. There, they get most of their back line like correct and their forwards, and it's just the halves that struggle. Like we got Burton now.
I know.
Oh mate, it is so frustrating.
Do you remember that era of Joshy Reynolds and Hodgie?
Yeah.
When they played for the Dogs, I feel like we were getting our shit together in the halves there.
Yeah.
They were the only halves that stepped in to rep New South Wales in that period of Queensland, and we won.
Yeah, and then they came back and
we won the series.
Yeah.
And then they came back and like whatever, I don't think that it was right for the Doggies, but then Reynolds and Hodgie never got put back in the New South Wales side, and then we went for like 4 years without.
I think they were burnt out by the time Origin had finished, and that's why we didn't win the grand final.
Yeah.
I was fuming,
that
though.
sucked. I actually got turned off the Dogs a bit when they let Josh Reynolds go.
Same here, actually. Yeah. Oh, dude, he was such a club loyalist.
Such a passionate dude.
Yeah.
And like when he would score a try, if you were at the ground, it was like everyone scored that try.
It didn't even have a painting in like that in the area for him as well.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, he was cool. But yeah, I think I've just been frustrated with NRL over the last few years. Even watching Origin, like Liz can attest to my level of frustration. The wick is so short watching rugby league now. Like when a call doesn't get made that's right, I'm like, I just want to throw the TV off the cabinet. I'm like, this is bullshit.
I can't watch the Bulldogs, dude.
It's hard.
It's like I've because of all those years of frustration, it's gotten to the point where you're probably like me, where you can't watch them anymore because you just know that they're going to lose.
Totally
most
agree.
of the time.
I always, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like the culture of the club or like the staff behind the scenes, but for whatever reason, no matter what the team, I feel like the kicking game of the Dogs is just nowhere.
No.
Like, they never put it up when there's an opportunity to just go high. Like, Yeah, I mean, I can't talk now because I honestly haven't watched too much of it in the last 12 months. But like, hoping Adhikar and those guys bring more people into the team, and
we just need 1 or 2 changes and we're good to go.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
I think we can make the 8.
Yeah, and hopefully it'd be nice. Because we're up in Brisbane now. I reckon I'll fly Grant up, my brother, to do Magic Round.
Yep.
Go to Suncorp, see Steve Allen.
Yep. Oh, does he do both ANZ and?
Yeah, because he's a rep of the NRL. I think he'll do some of the games at Suncorp. So yeah, it should be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after your karting career, was it first? Did you go with Ellery Motorsport with the Duratec in the Formula Ford, or did you do something before that?
I did. Yeah, I did. We did it on our own because we really wanted to do it that way to learn about the car. So we bought Richie Stanaway's ex McGale after doing a Minder development day.
Greg Woodrow on that.
Woody, it was good to meet Woody. He's good on the hustle side for sponsorship too. Like I learnt a lot off Woody.
He's a salesman and a half.
He is, absolutely. He's the one that gave me the tip off to that book by Guy Edwards called Sponsorship and the World of Motorsport.
Yeah. Did he actually give you that book to read?
He gave, yes, he had it in his office, but like it was the Bible, like wouldn't let it go out of the office. Right. And I found a secondhand copy which came from the UK, which had like underlines and like highlighter on each page.
Really?
And I paid $400 for that on Amazon.
Wow.
So I reckon I'll get double that.
I thought Woodrow would have like got the book out of his little drawer for you, and it would have been like, the big gold thing shining out.
The aura.
Here you go, Luke, borrow that for a bit and come back. But he left it and he made you buy another book.
Yeah.
Right.
He was like, this is mine. Like and fair enough too. Yeah. Like I would never lend mine out. I'd like take a photo of a page, and I have done that for some people who have got in touch with me about sponsorship on Instagram and stuff. Because it's valuable. Like there's a lot of lessons to learn. I learned more from the case studies and learning how you put deals together. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we did Formula 4 the first year on our own, and unfortunately we launched an engine because we just hadn't bled the system properly after we'd had the side pods off.
Yeah.
And we didn't realise that there was a bleed nipple further up above the head on the back side of near where the fuel tank is.
Didn't you become friends with one of the good McGowan mechanics who's mechanic for you onwards through 86 days and whatnot?
Absolutely, yeah. So because we launched that engine, we'd only just bought the car. Yeah. And I think I had 6 months out because I had to work and do overtime to pay for the engine rebuild.
Isn't it 10 grand or whatnot for an engine rebuild?
It was, yeah, at the time. And that was frustrating to see the kids that we'd been practicing against still running. And then I was going to work every day to kind of build up some savings to pay for this. And I'm paying off the loan of the Formula Ford as well.
Yeah. Were you on Avons back then before the Yokohama days?
Yeah, correct.
They were such a good tie.
Yeah, they were good fun. Yeah, the 2-lap drop off.
They were fast for 2 laps, so that's
exactly. Yeah, and then they plateaued. Yeah. But yeah, no, Glenn Dolman has been a huge part of our whole motorsport journey. Sorry, I almost took out your mic then. So we got in touch. We first met Glenn on that Minder day that we went to when we ran in Jack LeBrock's car with Woody. Yep. So that was our intro day, and Glenn was working for Bruin Beasley at that point. And
that's Bruin Beasley, because he's a massive influence on a lot of people's careers.
Yeah. He's running M-Tech. He's still down at Winton. He's got a couple of Formula 4s and Formula Renaults, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Or no, it might be the TRS cars from New Zealand. But he ran some pretty big guys in TRS for a while there after he got out of Formula Ford. So
Glenn and Bruin. So how was the relationship with Glenn? Obviously took off and helped you with your Formula 4 days.
Yeah, well, we just stayed in touch with Glenn, and it wasn't immediately that year after we met him we started working together. It wasn't until a year and a half later that I saw Glenn working for Radical. Yep. And I was driving production touring AM champs in an enduro with my mate Kevin Herben in a little Honda Integra. Yeah. Went for a walk down the Radical pit, and there's Glenn putting a front bar on a Radical, and we just got to chatting and sort of said to him, what are you doing? And ended up that he came and worked for us the next year. So, yeah, end of 2014 and 2015, we did heaps of testing, worked with Wayne Mackey, who's now at Erebus.
Jeez, Wayne's gone on to do some crazy shit in the engineering side.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
He's quite in all those documentaries, but he does a shitload of work for
I know.
Erebus.
Yeah. He's like the shock guru down at Erebus, and he was the shock guru for and the setup guy for Bruin as well. So we actually ran a set of those shocks at Nationals, the Olands, on loan from Woody.
Yeah.
And holy moly, made a huge difference.
Really? Those shocks are the massive difference in those Duratec's.
Unbelievable.
I keep telling that to Adrian, who runs my car now in the Duratec. I'm like, dude, shocks are a massive difference in those cars.
What have you got in at the moment?
Oh, I've sold it to him. I don't know what I totally forgot what it was just like the standard shocks.
Yeah.
And then I said to him, you can get better shocks than that. And he was like, nah. You know, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So you reckon shocks are the main?
Oh, mate, I couldn't believe it. Like, because I just thought, I was pretty critical on my data at that stage because I was self-taught through like Pete Dillman and Dave Kelly and a bunch of James McKay, a bunch of guys.
Oh, that's right. They were Coney. Sorry.
Yeah, they were Conies. Yeah. And, you know, I think we'd maxed out what we could do on that damper. And Woody was like, these are going to help. These are going to help. And I was like, fuck it, we'll put them on and see if it does.
Yep.
And when went to Nationals, it wasn't like it was under brakes. I could brake 10 meters later, or I could get on the throttle 10 meters earlier. It was just like little bits everywhere. And when you looked at the variance graph on the data trace, it was just this like beautiful little curve up, and it was like a second at Eastern Creek.
Really?
And that put us well within the top 5 of the National Series competitors. So that kind of unlocked it for us. And
maybe I'll just find some special shocks for my Kent car.
Mate, I can make some calls for you if you want.
So how did your relationship with Kevin come about? Kevin Herben. Big Kev, because he's the most infamous bloke. He hangs around, but he doesn't do much.
Everyone knows Kevin.
Yeah.
So I got to know Kevin. My first real year of racing cars was in the New South Wales Production Touring Car Championship, run at that stage by Jerry.
It wasn't the saloon car, or was it the saloon car?
Yeah, that was my EA. So there's a good video on YouTube of the EA overtaking Evos and club sports and stuff on the opening lap of a race.
Yep.
And I remember people used to come up to us and be like, "Oh, is that an XR6 turbo?" And I was like, "No, mate, straight 6, 145 kilowatts and close to 1.5 ton." Like, she's not exactly a speed machine, but we were hustling that thing. So and Kev was racing the 626, the ex Grant Denyer Mazda from the 24-hour, the 12-hour.
Jeez, from that era. Wow.
One of Grant's first cars. And Kev just like approached me one day and said, "Oh, do you want to do the Winton Enduro for production touring? And I'll share the cost of the Falcon." And we did the Enduro. It was a very difficult weekend for us. Kev accidentally put the thing into the fence down at turn 1 and 2 at the flag point.
Yeah.
And then it was fine to carry on, but he actually thought that he'd damaged the car more than he had, and he went off and parked it in the mud and then got bogged. So we didn't finish that race. And then the next day we lunched a gearbox and got stuck in 4th. Yeah. And so I drove the rest of the race in 4th gear at Winton, of all places, and managed to get through fairly well. So, but Kev is just one of those genuine guys, like sticks to his word. Like he helped us to fix the car and everything.
What's he do for a crust?
He works in warehousing. So if you go into a brand new Bunnings and you see all those orange and blue shelf stackings, he's the shelf man. So he'll run those projects. He had Candy Warehousing, I think it was called, which was his own business that him and a family member or a good friend used to run together. But I think now he works contract for a few bigger suppliers.
How was it racing for Peter Conroy? Because Peter Conroy just passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Peter Conroy just passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's the same Peter Conroy.
Yeah, it probably would be. Pete was pretty old when I was working with him.
Yeah, he passed away. Yeah. So how was it? How was it racing for him? Interesting. You found out of that on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, Sorry,
Peter
Pete's
Conroy.
Family.
Yeah. Well, you've been flat out, man. You can't. It's not like you. It's not like you hang your day on social media like me.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, I know Steve, his offsider, who used to work with him. That was that. Because what's his son's name? Is it Terry? No. Hang on, it's Peter and Terry, isn't it? Peter's the son.
I get confused because there's a few Conroys in racing in Sydney.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was great. And those little factory Integras that he had, I think they were ex-Japanese touring cars or something like that.
Yeah.
So they had pedigree from like Suzuka and stuff, and they had like carbon synchros and all sorts of wild stuff in them, and the little VTECs. And I remember lining up a bit of a test day, and we did like a launch with Daniel Beckinsale from DGB Media.
Yeah.
Daniel helped me develop some of my media skills when we were in production touring cars. So I'm so glad I'm remembering all these people's names because they've all helped.
You're doing pretty well, man. Because
I've got a
laptop in front of me.
Back.
You're beating Google at the moment, so that's good.
Sweet. Okay, that's good. But yeah, no. So we did a launch when I was coaching fast track racing back then, which was when that V8 experience was a really good thing for young drivers to get into. And yeah, we did like a little test in the Integra, and VTEC came on, and like I was hooked on that. And we, out of a 25 car AmChamps field, which was pretty strong back in 2014, the Evo 10s were big back then. We outqualified John Bowe in the wet at Phillip Island.
Really?
In the Integra. I think he was in one of Holty's old BMWs.
Yeah, right.
So we regularly finished 6th outright in that car. Yeah. Just plugged away and had good results. So
we finished 4th in the championship. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, 4th in the series, and we won Class D.
Yeah. So, there you go. All right.
Yeah, I think we were endurance champions actually that year. So yeah, that was a pretty cool year, and Kev winning his class. Like I went to coach him at Wakefield for the sprint events. I think it was 2 or 3 sprint events, and yeah, he was just stoked to win himself a national championship, and it was just really good. He paid for everything that year, and it was just an out of the blue offer at the start of the season when I was racing Formula Ford, and yeah, Kev was just like, "I'll pay. You come. I want to see you develop. I know you can steer." Yeah, and I never crashed the car, never got in a bingle with anyone on track, and there was a big team rivalry with the other Honda. Yeah. Let's not go into that.
Glad there was a rivalry.
That was a bit unfair at certain points. There was an 86.
Was it the number 1, number 2 driver type of thing?
100%.
Ah, yes.
First round at Sandown, I got told over the radio as we're finishing the race to slow up so we could do a 1-2 over the line.
Oh no, I can see where this is going.
Never again, ever again.
Were you thinking the iconic Bathurst moment?
Yeah,
that didn't happen, did it?
Nope, it didn't. I was sitting there in 3rd, rolling up to the checkers, waiting.
Mate.
And he just went straight past me.
I would have been pissed too.
Mate, I was spewing on the radio. When I came in, I got out of the car and I'm like,
yeah, dude, that's my trophy.
And? Yeah. And and then the driver was like, "Oh, I didn't hear it." And I'm like,
"Yeah, you did.
You heard it. You definitely heard it." So anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, so it was an interesting season to say the least, and it kind of stemmed from that first round. Yeah. And they'd been driving that other car for a while. And I don't think they liked that Luke King came in and was like faster straight off the bat.
Yeah, the whole ego thing that happens in motorsport all the time.
It does, though. Yeah, it does.
I get a bit like that too sometimes. I get shitty when like
someone
a younger
steps on your Kent toes.
When a younger driver comes in the Kent class and beats him, I'm like, man, I spent like years doing this.
But you're so encouraging though, and
I know, but I still get like I still have the competition in me. But
fair. As you should too. You wouldn't be a racing driver if you didn't.
Still get the red mist when it comes down.
Yeah,
when it
exactly. Yeah, good.
I have the Kimi Raikkonen vibes, but when like a kid who's younger than me, he deserves it because he's chasing a race car career. I'm like, fuck, I should have been really quicker then, man.
Yeah.
Like,
so who's quick at the moment then in the Kents?
It's just me and Scott. It's hard because over COVID, it was only the guys who could really afford to race at the moment. So it was Scott Tidyman and I, and we're kind of like the older bloke. He's older than me, and then we had Daniel.
Scott is in Cameron
No,
Hills.
Scott Tidyman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cameron Hill's doing great though with his
Scott. Oh, no. Sean. I'm thinking Sean
Tidyman.
Yeah,
you're thinking
sorry.
Sean.
Shout out to Sean.
Yeah. Sean's been mentioned a few times on this podcast though. He happens to know everyone.
He gets around.
Yeah,
he definitely gets around. That's cool. So it was who's running Kent this year?
There's me, myself, and I'll just say that. I'm hoping it's just me at the top. But there's Scott Tidyman. I think Tim will have a few guys. It's interesting now racing against like a bigger outfit. You would have had that with Luke Ellery.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You go from like a like a big team which has a lot
Yeah.
more supplies in terms of like spare parts to doing it on your own, and you
for sure,
like shoveling out a shitload more money.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
How was it with Luke Ellery though? Because he's pretty trick. Like he does all his stuff very neat. He's very OCD.
Yeah,
He might take a bit longer, but he does it very, very proper.
Luke and Dad got along really well.
Yeah.
And I think Luke looked up to Dad in terms of what Dad was doing from like the superior motorsport side of things and working with those guys, especially in the historic scene. Because Luke's obviously pretty well accomplished, like over in USF 2000.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever did an Indy Lights test or anything like that.
I think he may have. He did the 12-hour as well in that Abrath car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, no, look, I think we came in probably a bit too early for Luke when he was first starting. And Luke was good on the coaching side. And it was good to run down at Vic State. Like everything that he taught me about running at Phillip Island and Sandown and all that was really good. But I think in the end, it just worked out better for us to be privateers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Luke introduced us to one of his sponsors, Carolyn Kruger, who ran On-Track Accounts. And she helped me a lot with the accounting side, and even like funded part of it. So
she's very nice.
Yeah, she's a lovely lady. Yeah, and been through a bit herself. But you know, Luke was good enough and trusting enough to introduce us to Carolyn, and like we even went and stayed at her house at certain times and stuff to help with budget and everything. So
Jake Forak, your teammate at the time, he was also chasing a similar career.
Yeah,
too,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, he was a good teammate to have because he was really like promising, and people were watching him, and I just, you know, figured if we could run up against Jake, then we've probably got a pretty good chance. There was a time down at Phillip Island. I think it was one of our first rounds. Actually, it was the weekend. It was the first round. Safety car restart, 4-acre leading. I think I was fourth. Yeah. Spencer it
would have been Spencer.
Jake Spencer in front of me.
Would have been all
Lazaro.
Lazaro. He was like me. He's kind of like me. He hangs around a lot in Formula 4.
It might have been. There was another guy in a Spectrum. I can't remember his surname. Anyway, 4 wide down the main straight.
At Phillip Island.
Yeah.
Into turn 1?
Yeah, into turn 1. LKR on the outside. I went from 4th to 1st. It was like a MotoGP run. Yeah. And when I was actually at Phillip Island for the latest TCR round doing that ambassador work, I was standing at the front of the pits with Jay Hansen. Yeah. And we're just having a chat, and then you hear the infamous. Yeah.
Was that good to watch that weekend though?
Mega. Yeah. Like me and Jay, we were like standing there. I actually did an interview with him on my Instagram at then and there because him and I were just getting so excited about battle packs coming past and just the drafting battles happening in Formula Ford, and we were both like, man, like how is this not televised? Like how is it not a support category? Like
it's glad
it has to come back. I
think they only televised one race that week, and you were down there.
Really?
Yeah, that was only one. It was only race 2.
Good racing too.
I know.
It's really good racing at the moment. Yeah. So I loved the Duratec's. That was such a cool car, and I can remember the first time driving a Duratec, being in second gear, driving out of the final corner at Winton, and the thing just like it was because it was LeBrock's car. This thing just squatted and like took off the corner.
We had a trick set up on it.
Fuck yes, this is like that. This is what I want to drive. I couldn't believe like how quick they felt and like how light they were on their feet. And
you were like, fuck the production car.
Mate, going from an EA production car into that thing, it was just like you're just alive the whole time you're driving it. It's pretty sick. You can't really beat that open wheel feeling.
No.
I mean, like I am a touring car guy at heart. If you had to give me the choice, obviously I'd drive.
That's because your dad's. That's because your dad's influence, though. Your dad's been always huge into touring cars.
Absolutely, and NASCAR.
Exactly right.
Yeah, driving in circles.
Yeah. You got to actually tell me about his NASCAR days because Tony South was coming on after you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that can actually be like a nice segue.
Well, I was actually looking at his T-shirt that he's wearing in one of your promos, and it looks like he's ripped off a Bill Elliott livery, like a Coors livery from back in the day.
Oh, I can ask him that one.
Yeah, do a bit of research on that. But yeah, BJ went over there with mum, early 90s,
to America,
late 80s. Yeah, went to the
US.
Sick. Yeah. So he actually worked for Robert Yates Racing.
Yeah, right.
And actually, it was through a contact by a guy named John Callis. Mm-hmm. He raced NASCAR back in the 70s, but then came to work, oh God, what's his name? With Carroll Smith. Pretty sure John Callis came out with Carroll Smith.
Yeah.
If you Google Carroll Smith, he's like one of the biggest setup engineer gurus in motorsport ever from America. And yeah, Dad and John stayed in touch. And so I think John Callis ended up being like the head of development for Robert Yates Racing in their engine department. Yeah. Especially in the era of like the Dale Jarrett stuff. But when Dad was there, he was working for Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak Pontiac.
Mad. Back then,
up against Davey Allison in the Havilland.
That was
car.
back when NASCAR was NASCAR though. That
Proper.
was like seriously. That's when they were racing like with one eye and shit. That's what Davey Allison was doing. They had huge crashes. They'd come back the next week.
Yeah, proper boys. Yeah.
The Deep South NASCAR.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who else was there back in? Oh, that was, close to when Jeff Gordon would have been making his introduction to NASCAR.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dad sort of brought us up as being big fans of Rusty Wallace. But then I remember John one year sent us a big box of merch from the US, and it was when Robert Yates did the a promo for Batman and Robin.
Yep.
It must have been.
That's when the marketing was really good though for car racing.
Yeah.
When they were hooked up.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're trying to replicate with your career.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it was Dale Jarrett had the Batman car, and it was the Ford Credit Batman car.
Yeah.
And then Kenny Irvine had the Joker. I can't remember what his sponsor was, but yeah, we opened this box and it's like 1/18 scale cars, like full big shirts and stuff, and it was like Christmas in July, opening this thing, and Grant was like, I like the Joker, and he's like grabbing the Joker, and I've got Batman, and then I became a Dale Jarrett fan.
Is that still with your dad and your parents and whatnot? Or that, like memorabilia?
Oh mate, like you ask Liz, when we go home, there's model cabinets and trophy cabinets downstairs at Mum and Dad's place.
Really? Of your go-karting, Formula 4?
Of everything, everything that we've done. And so like I'll go in there and there's like, a wheel nut off like a supercar or something. And like there's always something in the cabinet for me and Dad to be like, oh, we didn't look at that last time. We'll just pull it out and we're just like frothing over like whatever it is. But those NASCARs are in there. And I almost made Dad cry for his birthday because I managed to find a limited edition Rusty Wallace Kodiak car from 1989, 1/18 scale. Very hard to get. Bought it secondhand on eBay, and it's the exact car that he worked on when he was working in NASCAR.
Wow, far out. That's cool. That's a cool little like rabbit hole story there.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah, so I think if Dad had his choice, he might have gone over to the US a bit more, but then I came along and made his life so much better.
Well, his son ended up racing a car like the TCR in the end game.
Yeah.
So it did actually kind of work out if you look at it.
Not bad. Not
bad for a bloke who's just a privateer smashes Chaz Mostert.
I don't know if we smashed Chaz, but we tried.
You go one-on-one with him. One-on-one with a great one.
Yeah, he was so good last year.
Yeah.
Like, he...
how was that racing with him? Because that is actually pretty cool. And you know what I mean? Like, he's just been a natural born driver.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Yeah, he can extract that little bit extra. I'd like to get ourselves into a financial position with sponsors and stuff where I don't have to worry about banging up the car. Yeah. Because when you bust a front splitter off, or if you're playing with someone, like it comes into your brain, like you have a shunt, you might be out for the next round. So I don't think that, I think that's where Chaz and those guys probably don't have that issue. They're able to just go and be 10-10s all the time because they're paid to do that. But when we were racing toe-to-toe, I think he bumped me once at Southern Loop.
Yeah.
But, I was running a pretty hard block for those 12 laps. I honestly was surprised that we kept him behind for so long. But we were fairly on pace with each other across the whole weekend. So, we front rode it. He pulled away in the wet. That was the first time that I'd ever driven on a proper wet tyre.
In the car too.
Yeah. So that for me, like it was, he ran away with that race. But race 2, when it dried up, it was on. And I was like... the first round at Tassie, I kind of let Chaz by in one of the races after he'd had a bingle with someone in front of me. And as he was coming back through, I just thought, I'm going to slot in here and let him in.
Is that Phillip Island?
That was at Tassie.
Oh, Tasmania.
But then at PI, like I had the lead of the race, got in front of Cameron, and he battled Cameron for a couple of laps, and I thought, stuff this, like I've got a gap, try and maintain the gap, and then he sort of came at me, and I probably was driving a little bit too safe, but at that point in time, I was still getting to know the car and everything as well. Yeah. So
when did it click for you with that? Like I know we're fast forward ahead in your career here, but when did it click for you for that car? Was it round 2 that you were comfy with it? Because Josh Buchan said that he was comfy by Eastern Creek when he won. Do you know what I mean? Did you actually click before your first win, or did you?
Yeah, I think we actually gelled with it almost straight away. You know, like we did an afternoon shakedown, I would call it, at Winton. Believe it or not, I think the car still had some hangover from when Russell Ingall driven it the couple of years prior. Like imagine going into the braking zone at turn 1 and the shock just breaks in half. Yeah. That's what happened to me on our first test day. So we did 2 really good sessions, and then that happened, which ended the day early. Yeah. So like that was my intro to TCR. We did like 30 laps. Yeah. And then we went to Tassie, did some practice, and I think the team was sort of just like, oh, we've got Chaz, and we've got this bloke out of 86, and I think even Lee admitted it in our docu-series that they were like, you know, looking back, like Luke was always probably going to do all right, but I think it wasn't until Quali 1 where we actually had made it into the 10, but we were the first Audi into the 55s at that circuit. It's like the whole team like kind of switched straight away down there, and they were like, holy shit, we've got 2 cars in our pit garage that could probably win this weekend. So I think that kind of changed things a bit for us, which was really cool. And
did Chaz actually ever help you with your side of the garage, or did he ever help? Was he actually comfy with that because he was focusing on his supercars?
Yeah, that's kind of the good thing about NPC. There's definitely there's no bullshit on the data side. You know,
so he actually treated it, for him, he would have did he treat it like a club day type of thing for him, like it's just the thing on the side, or did he take it full serious?
Look, I think with Chaz, he definitely I don't want to speak for him, but I think he does a really good job of staying relaxed over the whole thing, and that's when he performs his best. Yeah. So like you wouldn't know when he's taking it serious or not. Yeah. I see him on some supercar interviews, and you can tell that he's like disheartened and wants to do better, so maybe they're going in and doing a harder debrief. But I think with the TCR, there's probably less development because they're already homologated and developed from Europe. So he just got in and drove the thing. And there was times where I'd be like, you know, I like getting involved in the data and stuff, and I'd be like going and speaking to DeBore because DeBore was there, and I'd be like, I wanted to know, oh, what's Chaz think of this, and like. When we're
those two are like uncle and son.
But he just laughed at me and he's like, oh, mate, I don't know. Chaz is back at the hotel. And I'm like, righto. So, like, he's pretty chill. Like, I don't think there's a category that he wouldn't take serious. Like, he wouldn't get in a car and not take it seriously. Yeah. But definitely he was enjoying himself through the whole time, which is good to see. So,
but you were in the chance to win the championship at some point in that like COVID style championship. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it just unfolded that it went his way. Like TCR though is so, like Will Brown said this in the media, is so competitive these days. Yeah, like, all good. Respect to you last year.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Fucking hell, man. It's tough.
I think we put up a good battle, and like it wasn't without its troubles as well. Like we tried to mask up as much as we could, but like at Bathurst the first Easter Bathurst, there was people making comparisons about Chaz and I, and obviously Chaz is more experienced and like Luke's lagging and whatever, but no one sees behind the scenes, and we had massive brake dramas that whole weekend. Like I couldn't get anywhere close to like the 200 meter board for the, like without running out of brakes. Yeah. So we were battling with, you know, and as a team, we were all working together to try and fix this problem, but you got limited time over a race weekend. And so that weekend really hurt us. It hurt my confidence because I didn't have the confidence to push the car, and we lost a big bag of points that weekend. Like I think we qualified 8th, and we just kept going backwards. Yeah. Especially over the longer distance as well. Like we just couldn't. The car.
Was there regulated test days for I missed that.
There is 6 days a year. Okay. And not within 7 days at an event at that circuit.
Yeah, right. So it is kind of like supercars in a way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Treat it strict.
Yeah.
So you have to be on your game when you get up. And
absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny. Like I hear a lot of people saying, oh, they're front wheel drive and like I need time to sort of get used to it and stuff. But in the end, I did my research. I knew that the European guys who were coming out, like JK Vinay, Nesta Girolami, those blokes, when they came out here, they destroyed us.
Yeah.
And so I just looked at it and went, I've got to do some research. I've got to understand the dynamic of the car. And like we got in and felt comfortable straight away. So I think anyone who's sort of like going down that pathway of, they're different to drive or whatever, at the end of the day, you're a racing driver. It's got 4 tyres on it. You need to maximise the grip of those 4 tyres and go as fast as you can everywhere. And that's as simple as it needs to be.
And for us as drivers, we can't just go out there and kick a ball like any other sport.
Yeah.
And we have to actually wait for our time to get on the track.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what we're explaining to the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're going to maximise
You've got very limited time.
Yeah.
Yeah, very limited. Yeah. It's so funny. A lot of people ask me like, it must be like so good being a driver. Like, how often are you in a car and stuff?
Yeah.
And they're like literally expecting you to say like every week.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, 90% of my time I'm like hustling, trying to get deals done and whatever. And I might drive 8 times a year.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm looking forward to being up around Norwell a bit more because Paul's really good to me whenever I go there and drop him. We might do like an hour together or something in an 86 and bash around and do a bit of data. So hopefully I can.
Do you hang out with the other like Anton and that? Do you guys? Is it all of you guys that help other train other like general public, or do you just do your own thing?
I haven't got into that side of the crew yet, but like definitely had some good chats with Nash, Brody Kostecki. I know Anton from doing some coaching work together. So yeah, I know that core crew, and obviously I raced against Brock Feeney in 86s as well.
Yeah, I was going to actually go into that 86 series.
Yeah, so Brock and his dad, and I know them well. So the whole Norwell scene is a good spot for us, I think. Yeah.
So with your 86, you were didn't you race with Bruce?
Bruce Williams?
That's it. It. And didn't he have Jimmy Vernon the year before? Is that how it worked out?
They won the series.
Okay, good. I'm just checking with my Google facts.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really good. The 86 series was kind of my lifeline after Formula Ford.
Yeah, because I think you'd run out of budget technically after Formula Ford too. I remember talking to you.
Yeah. It wasn't great, and I think there was that stage at Formula Ford where we finished top 5 at a national level, and I sort of thought, wow, that's a good result for us. I could keep going and probably do pretty well, but there's not much point in me spending what I make at Origin Energy when I was working there on it. Like, I need to focus on the sponsorship side, which I already was, but that was like the reality check. It's like, okay, you're spending $100,000 a year on Formula Ford. All your mates have got house deposits.
Yeah,
you've got a race car that you're still paying off because you're paying for the operating costs as well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, realistically, it's $400K to the next level, and working.
Yeah,
as many hours of overtime as I want's not going to get me there.
No.
So when the 86 series came up, it was still around that 100K limit, I reckon, to do it properly for a season and to travel everywhere as well. That's the big cost. But bang for buck was huge, and it allowed me to set up a platform of selling sponsorship.
Yeah.
And
Bruce owned the car, didn't he?
Bruce owned the car
at first.
So the first season we did it with him, there was no lease fee. His sponsors were on the car paying for that lease fee. So it was like, here's the car. I trust you and your dad to prep it.
Yeah, which you did, because you did it in your home garage.
We did, yeah, correct. And good thing that, like, obviously Dad had his background and experience, because that's what got Bruce over the line. He knew Dad was old school. Bruce is very old school.
Yeah. Are you technically like an unqualified mechanic? Because like you never done your mechanic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because through your dad, you've done so much with him, and he might have taught you so much shit. You know, you could probably fix Liz's car if you ever.
Oh, easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially as a fitter and turner by trade.
Yeah.
You know, like the machining side of things and stuff, I'm probably a bit rusty on now. But in terms of doing mechanical work and stuff like that, I often worry that, if or when we have our own kids, how am I going to live up to what my dad's been able to do for me?
Yeah.
Because he's so good on the mechanical side, but I'm sure I'll be able to supplement that on the driving side as well. But I'm sure I could fix a car if I needed to. Yeah.
You got to go more into the 86 series, because I haven't really spoken much about that series, but I'm keen to get some guys in the 86 series on.
Yeah.
So can you explain, like, how it all works for just the general audience? Like if they do want to, if they're not even a go-kart and they want to get into the series?
Yeah, for sure. So 86 series founded by Neil Crompton and Airtime Autosport.
Yep.
Neil's been a long-time partner of Toyota and Hino Group and that whole TMCA corporation. So they sold the idea of the 86 series to Toyota, and Toyota actually part fund a lot of the costs for the series. So your entry fees are capped at $1,500, tyres are capped at $1,160 a set. A whole bunch of costs are kind of capped out.
Yep.
And the way that they've produced the cars, it's almost like running a factory car, because you've got Neil Bates Motorsport on the phone. If you've got an issue, you can ring them. They'll help you fix it. All the parts come from Neil. Or if you get have a relationship with your local Toyota dealer, you've got 40% discount immediately on all parts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of parts at the dealership. So we had...
Didn't you came close with Toyota, weren't you? Were you close to them?
Yeah, Sydney City, Toyota. Dealer principal there, John Rocker. We actually were driving out to Bondi to spend the day together one day, me and Liz, and we drove past Sydney City, and I said to Liz, I was like, that is the dealership that I want on the side of my car. And 2 years later we did the deal with them. So they were really good to us. But yeah, the 86 series, I would say to do it properly, it's probably 10 to 15K a round, depending on where you're going to. Brakes and tyres and all that sort of standard stuff. So really good bang for buck, because you're on the Supercars calendar. You've got great TV that you can get your sponsors involved with, and all the cars. It's one make.
But before Bruce, you're actually with Gary Holt. Who loves his sailboats, by the way.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So
that's what Jack was saying yesterday.
Yeah.
Who didn't remember you, unfortunately.
I know, but I'm not surprised, because unless I outlined to Jack that, like, I did a day's testing with him with barrel and whatever back in the day, he wouldn't remember. But his mechanics took me out at the Adelaide.
He was pretty honest though yesterday. He said he had a fair few concussions. So
did he?
Yeah, he was pretty honest about it all. He's just like, I remember a lot of. I don't remember a lot of stuff because because of his football concussions.
Oh wow,
great bloke though.
Yeah,
awesome.
He probably had a few hits in the Utes too.
Yeah, he did.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I can't remember any shunts off the top of my head, but I mean there was some big ones in the Utes back in the day. So
you got to. So what's your relationship with Gary Holt, and how did that all come about? Before Bruce, because we went. We went with Bruce first. Now we're going back to Gary.
To cut it short, we started our 86 journey with Brian Hilton Motorsport, and that was through a deal I had with another guy in the industry, and that all fell over very, very quickly, unfortunately, as a lot of motorsport teams do when things sort of a bit mismanaged or not communicated properly.
And the finances aren't together.
Yeah, so Dad and I did a lot of work setting up that motorsport program for that dealership. It just didn't work out, to put it nicely. So we did 2 rounds with them. And then on the Monday of Sandown, the new manager that had been brought in told me they didn't have a drive anymore. And I was absolutely devastated, because we'd done so much work. Like at that point, I was working at Origin as like a planner and scheduler, setting up the workflow for the boys that I used to be in the workshop with. And so I actually did a project schedule of the things we had to tick off the list to build an 86. So a build process leading up to the first round for 4 cars through Microsoft Project. So I had that done. I was in the workshop like bolting hoists to the ground. Had my mate Jeff Davies there, who worked for the dealership.
Do you do all your PDF documents to present to your sponsors?
Yeah, I do.
That's you doing
I
it.
do everything,
So it's not just Liz, because my girlfriend Brooke helps me with all my shit.
Well, look, Liz has helped to make me more professional, and she's got like all our content down behind the scenes, but she's actually been stealing some of my templates for my my PowerPoints and my PDFs for some of hers. So that's all us. So like we'd done so much work, and unfortunately the deal just fell over, which was really disappointing. And so therefore I was left without a drive, and Nigel Bowling, who's one of Dad's good friends, very well-known mechanic around the scene, fondly known as Black Nige. He knew Gary Holt, worked for him for a number of years. Holty was at the Singapore Grand Prix doing a deal with Daniel Ricciardo for Ricciardo karts, which is pretty sick. Nige rang Holty, because Holty wasn't driving his car for round 3, and said, I'm engineering this kid, Luke King. can we run your car? Holty does a lease deal on a serviette from the hotel in Singapore that he's staying in.
That's so good.
Emails that to me. I take that to Cams with the logbook and go, that's my approval from the car owner. And as we, I think we packed up the car on Wednesday night. We got it from...
Where was the car parked, though?
It was in Wollongong with Rhett. Well, I can't remember Rhett's surname. He works for Mark Cars. A lot of people watching would know Rhett. Really good mechanic. His workshop was in Wollongong. So we rock up at midnight on the Wednesday. Bump in is Thursday. I've never seen this car before, and it's got all the crash damage on it from the last round. So front bar was cracked, rear bar was like hanging off it.
It's got tyre marks and shit all over it.
It was banged up. And like the biggest thing in my brain, like Holty's not the tallest bloke. So what Red had done is that he'd built him this second throttle pedal with all these linkages and stuff.
I was expecting you to say booster seat.
Great job. Instead of building a booster seat, he built pedal extensions. The linkage was from one pedal to the other. And so when Holty's little foot pushed that pedal, it pushed the other bigger one. Same so with the brake. It was insane. And I got in and I was like this, putting the car on the trailer, trying to like figure this thing out. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, Dad, like we need to get Glenn to the wreckers. We need a new set of pedals. And when we rolled into Sandown, which was round 3, we were meant to be parked up next to Glenn Seaton and his son Aaron, who was running the series at the time.
Wait, were you racing like that for a bit or not? No, you won't. So you got that sorted straight away.
Yeah, we got straight into the tools that night. And Glenn, I think even like, because Glenn Seaton and Dad are friends from back in the day. And Glenn was like, why have you brought that car? Like you should not, like, don't run it. Like it's not going to do anything for you this weekend. I can't remember his exact words, but he was like, oh, it doesn't look great. Box, don't drive that thing. And so, we were there until like 1 a.m. and I'm upside down bolting brand new pedals back into it that Glenn went and picked up from a wrecker. We're fixing body damage with tech screws. We ended up nicknaming the car Frankenstein because it was held together with that many tech screws and bolts and stuff.
It was like a hire cart car in a way. That's the way you explain it.
Exactly. I rang my brother that night and I was like, man, I've like spent 15 grand on insurance for this thing. I'm like paying Holty a lease fee. I'm doing this, that. And it all came out of my account, obviously. And I just rang him and I like, this is my brother GK. And I said, like, I think I've fucked up here. Like, this could be bad. And he was like, man, just do your best. And he gave me like a pep talk about, looking at myself from the outside as if someone's filming a documentary on you and this is just a turning point in your life. And it was such a good pep talk because the next day I just put my head down, went out in P1. I think we were fastest. P2 or P3. Race 1, we fought Will Brown for the win. He got it. Race 2, we had another ding dong and I won it. Race 3, I think we got taken out.
How was it racing Will Brown in that series? Because at that time, he was just dominating fucking everything in the
Formula Ford, F4, 86.
3 things in 1 year.
He was running everything. So
that's track time if you want some track time.
It was good because Will was obviously highly rated even as a youngster. We were the 3rd person to win a race in the 86 series. So number 1 was Cam Hill. They dominated the first round. Will won the second. He was the 2nd winner at Eastern Creek, and then Sandown, we were the 3rd ever winner for the series. So, like, when you look at the top 3 there, Will's racing for Erebus now. Cam's just signed with 888. We're doing TCR. So, Paul Morris made mention of the 86 series when, after my performance against Chaz at PI, saying how good a breeding ground it is. So, I think it's kind of changed a bit now because a lot of guys who were in the series for a long time, like myself, Tim Brook, Cam Hill, Cam Crick, a lot of those guys have kind of like left now and gone away.
Most of them have gone to Supercars.
They're
all risking the Bista to go to Super 2
exactly.
now.
I know. Tell me about it. Which
that's another budget within itself.
Tell me about it. So I think it's got a bit of a way to go to kind of re-establish who's fast in there. Because Lockie Gibbons, I think he was sort of, he might jag a podium here and there, or he'd be like top 5 for sure when we were running. but now he's P1s, and Zach Bates is coming in and he's P1s. So
yeah, see, there's the little kid thing.
They're like the higher level now. So yeah, and then you've got I'm not quite sure if I can really name anyone else coming in. I think the young kid who's part of the Erebus Academy who's quite good on the sim as well.
Not Jay. Oh, I know who you're talking about though.
Job Stewart.
Oh, Job Stewart.
Yeah, and his dad's really cool. I think they'll do quite well, and Job will keep developing. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. But yeah, the 86 is a great little series, and if anyone's watching that wants to know more about it, just get in touch with me on Insta.
It kind of gives you the Formula Ford vibes, but for like a production
100%.
car thing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like it's close.
Yeah, and so much better to sell sponsorship for too, because you actually see the logo on the car. But yeah, no, definitely, it's a lot like what the Formula Ford series was probably back in those late 2000s.
Yeah, and we've gone up and down with your career at the moment.
Yeah.
But we'll go for a while back here. You actually you got a random opportunity to compete in China. I remember seeing that on Facebook one time. And you just took the opportunity with both hands and went, fuck it, I'm just going to go China and race there.
Yeah,
You've got to explain your opportunity with that, because that was a Le Mans car, wasn't it?
Yeah, LMP3 car. Yeah, so that was a Legia LMP3.
Yeah. You could feel your eyes go to the back of your head. And that
basically. Yeah. more your bones trying to exit out of your body when you're just holding it flat and the aero's taking over. I'd love to see what it's like to drive an LMP2 or an LMP1. Because
what was that track?
Another level.
That track looked like a stadium from the footage that I saw. That track was just crazy.
Bizarre little circuit. So we flew in, and it was like, I reckon China's version of council housing around us.
Yeah.
And this place was called the A1 Ring. A1 Ring Tianjin.
Yeah.
Tianjin. Which is like a little city out, an hour and a half outside of Beijing.
Yeah.
So like here we are, me, Dad and Liz all flew together because I just wanted Dad to be there as a part of it, and Liz was doing all our media, and she's just involved in everything anyway, and it was just like, let's all go to China at 2 days notice.
Just pack up our shit and go to China.
Yeah, so it was bizarre. We're walking through these little slum apartments and whatnot, and all you can hear is LMP3s just echoing up through, because they'd already started practice by the time we got there. And the circuit was insane because they'd done this massive corporate box and everything, but half of it was fully operational and the other half was not even fitted out. So it was just so
they give up halfway through and
who knows? They were that's good enough. We're just going to go with that. So, but yeah, it was crazy because the owners of the category owned the rights to Marvel Comics in China.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So each car was a different Marvel character.
Yeah.
So, and my helmet's based on Iron Man.
Yeah, right.
And funnily enough, we got put in the Iron Man car.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dope. So yeah, that opportunity came about, and this is where motorsport is so about the networking and doing the right thing by people and not burning bridges. James Winslow was the coach of Radical head coach of Radical when I was there. And I probably spent more time with other people in that group more so than James, because James was sort of at a higher level.
Yeah.
But I did ask him for some help at one stage, and I'd sent him my resume, which is pretty basic compared to what you've got of mine now. And just saying, mate, this is what I've done. This is what I want to achieve. If there's any opportunities that let me know. And that was more based around trying to just get a drive with a gentleman in a Radical or something to get a bit of a leg up.
Yeah.
And anyway, James had seen me running in the 86 series up in Townsville. It's 7 years later.
Is this after Bruce's car or Gary's car?
This is Bruce's car.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just come back from doing some training in the UK with Rob Wilson.
I was going to ask about that too.
Yeah. We'll segue off onto that. But yeah, he'd seen me doing that overtake on Steve Owen and rang me the Monday morning and was like, oh, mate, I never forgot about you, but I saw you racing on Sunday or Saturday, whenever it was.
And Steve Owen ends up being your wingman to a trip to China.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, it was just epic. James just said, mate, you're going to have to get on a plane on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So we kind of needed to find the funding to get the flights together. And I think the deal at that point was we needed to pay for some tyres as well. But I said to James, as long as the damage is sorted and they're happy for us to run under that sort of a contract, we'll go. And he was like, okay, done. Yeah. So it wasn't exactly that straight by the time we got there. We had to do a bit of negotiating around, and Liz got her like management head on.
Right. You got to tell me what this track was. The track though, was it kind of like putting a track in the middle of Parramatta or something?
Basically,
like,
yeah.
Really? So just around Housing Commission and shit.
Yeah,
right?
so it was a permanent circuit, but what they did for the LMP3 event was they made it a half street circuit.
Yeah.
In the similar way to the, Townsville
or like
Albert Park.
Yeah.
So
we're on the same wavelength. We've got both pink.
Yeah.
And we both set up the park.
This is good, mate. We're vibing. So it was similar to that, but Chinese. So like you get down to the opposite end of the circuit where it broke off to a street circuit, and like literally the servo's just on like the outside of like that corner down there after the runoff area.
Yeah.
Like if
it's barricaded off though, isn't it?
Well,
it wasn't.
If I zigzagged
China.
out of the barricated area, I'd be going down the main road of Tianjin and just like stopping into like
for a Mars bar
local noodle box. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to get it, mind you, in the P3 car. But the track was really cool, and it was a challenge because obviously I'd never driven there.
Yeah.
And then the street circuit side of it, some of the parts of the street circuit were actually breaking up, and like the bumps
didn't have any potholes on the track, though, did it?
It started to form one on the apex of little hairpin at a big braking zone. So like you'd be going around the outside of that corner and being like bum bum bum. Like it was
wow,
pretty epic. And like James, to his credit, like helped us as much as we possibly could to get up to speed, and had sent me on board from his pole lap a couple of years before.
Yeah. And
the way that I prepared for that, we've got some good footage of it on the flight. I just thought, well, I'm not going to get a chance to practice in this thing, and when I show up, they need to think that I've already done this before, because they're pretty brutal cars to drive. And so I got my passport wallet. I had my laptop set up in front of me for to view the footage, and I had my headphones in. And so I just had my passport wallet, and I was just listening to James when he was changing gears, when he was braking. I was literally doing foot movements and all the hand movements, exact steering angle, same as him. And I probably drove 40 virtual laps with my passport book.
Wow.
Just on the flight.
On the flight.
For like an hour.
And you're just memorizing it. You're actually
memorizing it.
Wow.
And then I shut my laptop and I wrote a track map. Like I'd actually gone and done a session, because I'm big on track maps and writing down everything that I do. So I wrote a track map. I wrote out my brake markers. I wrote out my gear change points and everything. So I knew what gear I had to be in. I knew what brake markers were. And so as soon as I rolled out of the pit lane, I was like, hell yeah. I've been here before. Yeah. This is third gear, that's second gear. And that was something that like I'd never seen anyone do before, but I just came up with it. I was like, visualization will help this. A bit of muscle memory before I even get in the car. And, all they had to tell me was how to start it, because that was the only thing that I'd forgotten, that I'd never actually done it
That's
before.
actually very 80s, the way because a lot of drivers don't do that. They just hop on a sim and go. Do you know what I mean? So you had to technically 3 days out from the race.
Yeah.
Memorize it, travel all the way to China.
Yeah.
And then go there on the flight.
Yeah.
And then wing it.
Yeah, it was pretty epic.
With that Iron Man car or whatever it was.
Yeah, oh mate. Yeah, the poor Iron Man car, it actually it suffered a fuel leak all weekend.
Yeah.
And that was my first brush with a potential fuel drama like on me.
Yeah.
I think it was, lap 2 or 3 of practice, and my ass started burning in the car. And I thought, man, like the pipes must be running under here, or like there's something around, or the floor pan's bottoming out, because it was quite low and bumpy. And so I just thought, holy shit, the floor's getting really hot.
Yeah.
And as I pulled into pit lane, the airflow stopped in the car.
Yeah.
And I could smell fuel. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, that's not good.
Holy shit.
So when I pulled up, I kind of started undoing my belts, and I looked across, and it was like an inch of fuel.
Oh, no.
The whole fuel bladder had just leaked into the cockpit.
Holy
and because it's
shit.
all carbon monocoque, it's quite well sealed. And so I was just like driving around in a bath full of fuel. And so I got out. It wasn't the heat that was burning my ass.
Yeah.
It was the fuel, because it's such high octane as well. And it was just like a chemical burn.
Wow.
And so like I'm in like the only bathroom that we could find in the back of the pit garage with like my suit on and my ass in the basin and just filling up the basin, trying to like
ice or anything
flush it all off. And so like next session I was just in like a wet race suit. But that plagued that car all weekend. So we kind of went between Iron Man and Black Panther.
Yeah, I remember that actually. I remember hearing about that. You went between the two cars.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. Yeah, like they had containers of these LMP3 cars there.
That's their Matchbox cars. Yeah. They just whip one out and just you race the next one.
Oh man, it was cool to see. And we actually that weekend drove with like the Michael Jackson of Asia. His name's Aaron Kwok.
Yeah.
And he's like a performer, actor, all that sort of stuff.
Wait, he was your teammate?
He was there. Yeah. So he was running out of the same garage as me and James. And Winslow's like coaching him and giving him a bit of a hand. And I was helping one of the other blokes. And
he's a big superstar in China, is he?
Superstar dude.
Really?
Like had 2 bodyguards there the whole time.
Did he have girls and stuff fainting at the back of the garage and stuff?
On the days that we did the signings, they set up tables and had full grid signings. And I was like holding babies with like photos and stuff. Like no joke. Like we got some funny photos from that. And people wanting me to sign just like random bits.
I was going to ask about that. Fans over in China and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You didn't sign a baby though?
No, I didn't sign a baby.
Didn't sign a baby. Okay.
No.
Everything else.
No one tried to give me a baby either, which is good.
Talladega Nights type of stuff.
It was very interesting, and he was like a superstar. Had all the cheers from the grandstand and all that sort of stuff. So I think it tied into the whole Marvel thing to have him there. So yeah.
So you were talking about Rob Wilson. What was how did that all come about for you?
That came through Steve Webb.
Yep.
Because Steve is a customer of Superior Automotive.
Yep.
And Steve's got the Dad's going to kill me for forgetting this. He's got one of the old Can-Am sports cars that's Superior. Dude, it might even be the old Budweiser.
Are you guys still mates with the Webb family though? Like Steve and that?
Yeah. I see Steve around the pit and that's all good. Steve I think had sent Jono maybe over to see Rob Wilson and gave Dad and Rodney Gibbs the contact for me to give him a call. The year that I got that contact was 2016, and that was like I could not fund myself to go over there. But in 2019, when I could, I took the first opportunity. Liz's family live in the UK. She's originally from the UK.
Yeah. Do you guys go, well, before COVID, did you go much over there?
Yeah. So Liz goes every 2 years. The first time I had a chance to go with her was 2019.
Yeah.
When we did that,
how did you two actually meet?
Oh.
She's actually here in the studio. You just can't see her.
Yeah. Well, put that one on ice because that's another funny story. But when we went to the UK to visit Liz's family, I just organised a heap of motorsport stuff around that on the weekends. Yeah. And Rob was one of them. And he's such a dude. Like, loves music as well. Plays in a band.
Yeah, right.
I've got his CD in my Falcon.
Yeah.
And knew Aerosmith. Yeah, was sponsored when he raced NASCAR.
Yeah,
he was sponsored by Aerosmith.
Bullshit, really?
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that is so sick.
And they used to come out and watch him, and they're like mates. Like we pulled in from. Basically, you do a couple of laps with Rob, and then you pull up and you have a chat.
Yeah.
And as we pulled up one time after lunch, and he'd figured out how big Liz was into the music scene.
Yeah.
Who was it he called Liz? It was Steve and Tyler. Messaged him, text Steve and Tyler.
Text Steve and Tyler.
Oh, I'm here. I think he even said I'm here with Liz Brown or whatever. She's in music in
Bullshit,
Australia.
Really?
And he's like, oh, Liz, here's a text from so-and-so.
Dude, I love classic rock,
Epic, so funny. And like, I love the way that Rob runs his days because it's kind of like, you know that he's psychologically trying to figure you out.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Cam Waters and the Van Gizzes and those guys go there because like there's more behind the scenes of what Rob does, and like he takes you to one of the 2 pubs that's close to Brunting Thorpe Airport, which is called the Proving Grounds.
Yeah,
it's old.
And he's just old school, is he? This dude.
Yeah, we were in a manual front wheel drive Astra on a pissing wet day.
Yeah,
it was like. We went for a drive around the circuit with Rob, and he's like, "Oh, Liz, get in," and she's like, lap sash in the back, 200 Ks, no helmets in this Astra, and at Brunting Thorpe, it's like a storage ground for like Jaguar, Volkswagen, Audi.
Yeah,
and so we're thrashing past brand new unplated Jags and Land Rovers.
Yeah,
with like an orange barrier between us.
Yeah,
and I'm like, if we aquaplane and spin now, we're going to write off like 100 brand new cars. And he's just like hooking in, just like, oh, yep, you just turn in here, and Liz is in the back filming. Going,
Holy fuck.
we're going to make it out of here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So we went to the Grey Goose and had lunch with him, and he was like asking me about like.
Yeah. Did you go to any circuits in the UK? I've never been to a circuit in the UK. My brother lived there for 2 years, but I never went to any circuits. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You should have, man, because they're all epic, like old, like World War II air bases and stuff.
Yeah. Did you go to Silverstone? Or did you go to Brands Hatch? And
drove past Silverstone like 3 times, but never stopped in. It was all in our travels.
Did you go past any of the Formula One factories though, just to get the satisfaction? Or
yes,
not really?
Red Bull.
Yep.
The day we went out to have a bit of lunch with Caitlin Wood, we went to Palmer Sport. Mm-hmm. On the way to Palmer Sport, we went and stopped in at Red Bull.
Yeah. So you saw Caitlin over there? Did you?
Saw Caitlin. Yeah. I knew her from Newcastle and obviously from Formula Ford as well. Met her and her partner. Just went to a little pub. I love the pubs in the UK.
They're all the same but different.
Feed. Yeah.
Oh, dude, they're so good.
It's pretty cool. So, yeah, she's having a great time there. I know she was on the pod. So watch the Caitlin Wood podcast. You can find out all about Caitlin.
Thanks for plugging me on that one.
That's all right.
She'll appreciate it from you though, because you've actually gone to see her at the time.
No, she's a legend. And I rate that she just wants to get in and drive and do a good job. And and she does do that. So it was good to touch base with her while we're there and see a friendly face. So I think she was actually getting a bit of work at Palmer Sport at the time too. So, and we're through Pete Dolman, we're sort of friends with Abby Eaton as well. So
Abby tried her hand in Super 2 here too.
Yeah, she did. I don't think the opportunity really suited her that well. I think she could have done better, but yeah, as you know, sometimes you only get one.
I've got the frustration with the W Series, right? It's proven with Jamie Chadwick. She's in her 3rd year, and I'm going a bit off topic here, but she's gone 3 years in the W Series and hasn't moved on. Do you know what I mean? It kind of defeats the purpose of the W Series, where
100%.
There's heaps of talented girls out there, but they just don't get the chance because it is a male-dominated sport.
Yeah.
If you look at it at that way with her, she's in the Williams Academy for Formula One and still can't break through for an F3 or an F2 drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is kind of what I don't get about it. It was meant to, when it first came out, I remember reading the press release about W Series, and David Coulthard made the comment of, this is going to help female racers get through the glass ceiling. It is the glass ceiling because there's no funding beyond. You know what I mean? Like, you win that, and it's like, here's whatever money.
But they don't even get sponsored in that series, though. It's ridiculous.
I know.
That's why Caitlin couldn't even go further, because she didn't even get sponsored via a car.
How is it not the pathway to just put them straight out of a W Series car into an F3?
Yeah. It's not that hard, by the way, because they're pretty much the same car, but different tyre.
Yeah, and that's what it should be. And I think we're all, if you've got that pathway of W Series, Jamie won it pretty convincingly, I think, and you'd like to see her in an F3. Yeah, and you'd like to see her get 2 solid years with like a Prema or someone, and just see if she can perform at the level, and then if not, well, it's the next W Series winner, and then you just. I mean, it has to happen at some point.
I think for her, though, like Logan Sargent struggled too with budget, right?
Yeah.
She needs what Logan's had, but the same type of value from Williams Racing for her. Do you know what I mean? She's coming from no budget, obviously, as well, but she needs that same progression and same tutoring to get her through to F2. Do you know what I mean? Well, otherwise, she's just going to be stuck there, and she probably will just end up racing Le Mans or whatever.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think it's on the onus back to the FIA to kind of implement something where teams must run a W Series driver.
Yep.
Or a car.
Kind of like how F2 could go an F2 champion should be in F1.
Exactly. Yeah. But almost the same way that the Sydney City Roosters will actually help fund a W Series, a W League.
Oh, a W League thing. I like how you relate it back to
football. Yeah. No, but seriously though, because that's getting quite big here in Australia.
Yeah, with NRLW. Yeah. I totally understand where you're coming from there.
I think without the link to the end club, what's the pathway? If you had that, and especially now with the budget cap, you've got Mercedes that was spending $500 million a year, and now they're going down to 145. That other budget, how is that not some of that available? 10 million even available to run one of those chicks? Yeah. In a F2.
Yeah. Or an F3 car.
Ferrari, same thing. Like, it should be mandated that, like, if you're running a Formula One team, you've also got to run a
And the
W
academy,
Series competitor.
just to help maybe progress a girl eventually into F1,
Yeah.
should at least pick, because there's 20 girls on the grid, right?
Yeah.
You should at least pick maybe one academy each should choose a girl, which Ferrari has done.
Yeah.
And Williams has done. Do you know what I mean? Then you have the rest of them choose one each. And then it just helps the ladder progress quicker.
I think it'd be good to see the leadership from the FIA on that side of it, because I mean, obviously, like we've seen it here in Australia, girls get fast-tracked when they shouldn't, because the opportunity is there. Sponsors want to see a female racer. It's a very easy thing for commercial people, and some of them not very well-intentioned to sell, and they just take advantage of the situation and go, we've got a female racer, she does all right, we can drag in a heap of sponsors, and as a manager, I'm going to make some money out of that.
Yep.
But then the best interest for the female athlete isn't taken care of, and they're pushed into Carrera Cup too quickly, or they're pushed into a supercar too quickly.
That's kind of what happened with Simona and Abby and stuff.
Well,
totally
they just fall over, and that could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, could happen to any driver. Like if I was pushed into something too quickly, I'd look stupid, and then everyone would turn around and be like, "Oh, he can't steer."
Yeah.
So whereas Dad was almost probably too conservative and made sure that I was like at a certain level before we moved on.
Yeah.
And so I can't help but have that instilled in me that you've got to be at a certain point before you can.
Did you read the recent licensing system for supercars? Are you for or against that?
Glenn messaged me this morning. Glenn
I'm glad
Dolman,
he did, because that was part of my content.
He said, stop everything, and then sent me the article. So he's onto it. Look, I am for it.
Yeah.
The only thing I worry about is then it just becomes a pay to turn up system. I think you still have to have a points system and a merit system in there. I mean, we're at 16 super license points with our finish in TCR last year, so we're well over the threshold. I think we had 5 each for the 2 runners up that we had in 86, and then 6 for TCR last year. So
Motorsport Australia gets so much like funding and money from its members in. You'd think that they should help guys who are in the top 3 in the elite championships without a budget, give them a bit of a purse to help them get into the next
Absolutely.
level. That's what NASCAR has done. Like I spoke to Tony today, Tony Southwell was coming on, and he said Bob Jane used to help his drivers get on the track.
There you
know
go.
what I mean?
Yeah,
it just needs that bit of that old school feeling.
Yeah.
But it's so monetized these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's hard as well. Like I'm sure there is a lot of that money there, but who's controlling it? And what else is it going into? It's it'd be nice to see some more accountability and a bit more public knowledge on it. I'm sure it's there if you and I wanted to go and find it or inquire about it, but that's half the problem is we've got to go and work it out. We're not being told. So, I mean,
it's not sent to us via email where we can just click it and go, oh, okay, that's easy.
Exactly. I think there's some crazy figure that motorsport in Australia is like a $200 million a year industry or something collectively. Rally, carnicross, car clubs, all that sort
drifting,
of stuff. That's
everything.
Not, top spec supercar. That's a huge industry, and when you've got over 1 million members of Motorsport Australia, we're all paying memberships, which obviously go to insurance and keeping funding happening. But I wonder if there could be something there. I don't want to say too much.
It's all right. Well, I've got another subject for you.
Yeah.
You've had a fair few mentors over your career. It sounds like this is your life actually now by the time we get to the end of the podcast. Sounds
kind
like
of is.
Sounds like Channel 9.
Yeah.
So who's the mentors in your career?
More than 60 minutes.
You've had a lot of mentors in your career. Obviously, your dad, you touched on Mark Larkham.
Yep.
Mark Larkham for me goes through Bart. He raced with Bart's dad.
There you go.
Yeah. So Mark Larkham, how did that the whole mentor thing with that come about? Was with Peter Dorman before Peter Dorman? Those two.
It was kind of. Dad told me when I was a little kid that he'd done a little bit of work for Larko. He'd also done a bit of work for Glenn Seaton, but for whatever reason, I've always just been an underdog supporter. And I think that Glenn was winning all the time back then. And for whatever reason, Larko's car just looked dope.
It
back
looks
then.
so good, though.
The Mitre 10 Falcons, honestly, you look at those cars and you're like, someone knew what they were doing with those liveries, and it was Larko.
Yeah.
So I started supporting him. That's a good early motorsport memory of him barrel rolling down Phillip Island after that big shunt
that was huge.
where he rode off that car. That was 97, I think. And so I just followed him through, and like just being a kid at the track, you want to meet the driver the same as you want to meet the NRL player, and like you're looking up to these guys on TV. And so, like, every time I saw Larko, he was just so friendly.
Yeah.
Really lovely to chat to, and gave you 5 minutes. To the point where I used to take him like a lucky marble or like
he used to go to my church as a kid.
4-leaf clover or something.
Yeah, he used to come to my church when I was like a little kid.
He used to wear the Saint Christopher.
Did he?
Yeah.
I love how Liz knows
everything,
well, just to double check.
I've got a Saint Christopher as well. So
really?
I'm not super religious or anything, but and that's the guardian angel of like transportation and travel and whatever.
Does he still wear it? Do you know?
I don't know, but he definitely used to wear it. Like, because in one of his interviews on his pole lap at Bathurst, he's like, "Oh, I've got so and so with
good.
me." So yeah, and like I would. He got me into design. I'd be like designing liveries for his cars and take it to him. Yeah. And he used to do this really cool
Was this
thing.
back in the school, like at the back of the school book type of shit back
Basically,
in the day?
yeah. Like it got pretty good after a while. Like I had photocopied templates of a supercar. And I was just like doing a design or
the
like
EL Falcon
color scheme. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. So and Larko would not only sign it, but and this is where I think I get some of my personality from as a driver to kind of engage with fans and stuff. Because like Larko would sign it with his name, but then say approved for implementation, whatever the following season was. And so like he's not going to put my design on the car, but like he's actually making something out of it instead of just being like Mark Larkin. Cheers, mate. Thanks for coming and just moving on.
Wow. So he would actually do that.
That's
so good.
Yeah,
as
so
like
I've got liveries that are approved for implementation for Larkin Motorsport.
Who were you starstruck then by? Mark Larkin would have been one. Who were you starstruck as a kid by?
Larko.
Because your dad
Wayne Gardner.
Wayne Gardner. Colin Bond was another one.
Bondy. Like Gary Wilmington was still racing back then as a privateer. All of those guys. Will Power I met. He was driving for Larko at the time. We were on
in the
holiday.
Formula Holdens?
In Supercars.
Oh, in Supercars.
So
okay.
03 Enduros before he went to Indy.
Yeah.
And he was actually vomiting in the toilet of a sim rig place up in Queensland.
No one will know this, so this is sick.
I know, it's a good one. So I was like jibbing dad on this like holiday. I like looked it up. Yeah. There was a sim place there, and I was like, I want to go and drive a supercar sim. And I was probably 13 or something. And I would have been. So went into the toilet, someone's vomiting in the bathroom, walks out, and it was the motion base that Will like couldn't. He just didn't like it, I don't think. And so that Will Power was there, and then like obviously we followed Will because of the Larko connection and because we'd seen him at the sim place, and then he's gone on to win Indy and win Indy.
It's amazing that he lives over there and he's just full adapted to that life.
Epic, yeah. I've seen his brother Damien in live stand up.
Really?
And
he's
that
a
bit
funny
on
fucker.
Will's classic, so funny. Yeah, I can't remember the exact bit about the Ferrari in the car park, but like it's a good one. If anyone's out there, you should watch Damien Power's skit.
Damien Power, he's so... We've got to talk a bit about Scott McLaughlin though. Scott McLaughlin, Supercars, IndyCar. We'll just go a bit here. He's dominating IndyCar off the bat in his second year. He's just a natural driver.
Yeah, it's pretty mega to see him win. Was it St. Pete was the first round?
St. Pete and then Texas.
Yeah, it's for him to be leading that Texas Oval race on the final lap, like mega.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just can't believe that he was so dominant here, goes and applies it to that. But I mean, like Roger Penske doesn't just uproot you because he thinks he might be okay. Like he obviously saw something in Scott and,
apparently it reminds him of Rick Mears.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, I'm going to hire you because you remind me of Rick Mears.
Wow, there you go.
There we go. That's my first Google fact.
That's pretty
of the night.
interesting. Nice one, man. Did you get my comment about Greg Biffle the other day?
I did.
How the Biff got picked up by Roush?
Oh, I remember vaguely seeing it.
That's a good pod as well. Yeah, it's a Michael Waltrip pod.
Greg Biffle though, he was a legend.
What a unit! I loved the Biff. He was cool. Like when I'd be watching.
We should hang out more, and we can't now because we're in Brisbane. You're in Brisbane, but
when you fly out though, we'll watch some NASCAR races or something.
Yeah, Greg Biffle, man, he was
mega.
He was. People reckon like he's like a nobody, but dude, he hopped into the truck.
Such a driver.
I know. He hopped into the truck with Kyle Busch and won and hadn't raced for like 2 years.
I know. Yeah, epic. Okay. Yeah.
mate.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
The number 16, what was it? The National Guard car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looked epic.
Used
Always
to race
looked
him on
good.
the NASCAR game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he had 3M as a sponsor for a time there too.
Yeah, he did.
And did some sick burnouts at Bristol when he won Bristol. I
Yeah.
remember watching that back in the day.
Yeah.
That was a bit of glory era for NASCAR. I reckon like the back end of the Taurus and then coming into the Ford Fusion. That was a good era.
2000 when Ambrose was there to when he left, I think was the prime era.
That was mega. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was pretty cool when Marcus went there. But Bridie as well.
Yeah.
Bridie in Indy, he ran IndyCar and
You tested his TCR car, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Or was that it? Did you race it or just test it?
Just test that winter.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Bridie over the last few years has become like a really big mentor for us and his partner Ebbs as well.
Yeah.
Just great people. And that's, I think we've been lucky over the years to just be surrounded by the Good People Club in motorsport.
Yeah.
Because it can be hard to find those people. Bridie's helping us out and has helped us out with plenty of opportunities and like has given me commercial advice with how to do deals with sponsors because he's been big on that over his years at bringing partners to the table. He told me a story. He had to almost raise close to like $1 million to try and get that IndyCar gig to happen.
To happen, yeah, right. He did US. Did he do a USF 2000 like the lower ranks? Or
he did Indy Lights.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to tell Bridie's stories for him.
You can tell a bit of it, but unless you can hook me up with him and then I can get him on.
Yeah, he'd love to do a pod if he's up here in Sydney. He's running a pretty successful business at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah, Task Force. It's
that's his
really
business.
Well. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was just a sponsor of his car at the time.
No. He bought that back in 2014 and kind of changed the background of the business and developed some software. And he's a smart guy. Always was on the data side with supercars and stuff as well. He'll laugh when he sees this because he's just takes the piss. But pretty clever dude in business, in like the data side of things and whatever. So he's doing really well.
Did he help you at all with your latest TCR gig at all, or not really? He did.
Yeah. He was at Phillip Island with us, helping us to make a decision to buy new wets or go on old wets. And I call him all the time, and we'll talk to him about different situations and stuff. So I would have loved to have him as a driver coach and a data engineer last year. Because he has done that for some Super 3 and some Super 2 guys. I think he even helped Kostecki out a few years back.
Yeah. Brody.
Yeah. When
So
Brody
many
was
of them.
running. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So he helped Brody out.
Yeah, so I'd love to have that, but he's just been so busy that he hasn't been able to. So I try and just get bits of time off him when I can and utilise that as much as possible. So
Peter Dorman helped. You obviously looked up to him as a youngster.
Yeah,
he had the Gatorade car.
Yeah,
is that what sucked you into like supporting him and stuff?
Mate,
and that whole career with him sponsoring you.
Pete had us sold as kids because when you can walk up to a racing driver and they're going to give you free stuff that like you'd usually have to beg your parents for, he'd be like, go and choose whatever colour Gatorade you want, because they always had a big Gatorade fridge out the back. And how sick did that old what was it? It was a VX at that stage, probably when I was going. But that looked awesome.
They did car. Every drop. He would have told you this. Every droplet was single. Like singly stuck on.
Yeah, crazy, Nowadays you just print that on a wrap. And you wouldn't even think twice about it. Yeah. But he was always really good. Like Grant, my other brother, used to be a bit more boisterous and would like play up when we were at the track and stuff. And I remember Pete threatening that he was gonna like rip his undies off and hang him up on the flagpole or whatever, and like threatened him to like behave or whatever. Yeah, I don't know why that stuck in my head, but Pete was good. I always used to get the purple Gatorade. I don't know why they ever got rid of that flavour, but
We'll go back to what you put on ice, your girlfriend. So we'll wrap up the podcast with this. How did you actually meet Liz?
So
she can hear this live in person. She's right here.
Yeah, no, Lizzie and I met through one of our sponsors, JSD Designs. Yep. So I met Joel Spencer on a track day, on a VW corporate day, and he just offered to sponsor me doing design work and developing website and brand and all that sort of stuff. So he helped a lot over the years that we were partnered together, and was a really good influence on me for trying to be more professional. Yeah. And probably, it was 2016, 17. He'd brought this marketing person into his team that he'd told me about, who was going to do some posting for me and potentially some filming and video and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that ended up being Liz. So
you didn't think much of her back then, did you?
Well, I hadn't met her at that point.
Yeah.
Her Instagram handle was Liz Arrow Agency, because Liz's business is called Arrow Agency, where they manage their music and stuff, their artists. And so there's a suburb on the coast called Lisarow.
Yeah.
And when I saw Lisarow Agency, I was like, what the hell? Who's got an agency in Lisarow? I was like, it just like didn't even sit with me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like I negotiated a flexi work program with Origin for 2017, so I could do 2 days a week at Origin, and the rest of the week I'd work on sponsorships and racing stuff. So I used Joel's office in the city, close to here, as like my go-to for just doing work and feeling like I was going somewhere to do work and be professional. Yeah. And Liz was in the office. So that was where
was she single at the time, or did she have a boyfriend?
Yep, she was single at the time. Yep. We were both roaming around doing our thing. And she loves to tell the story. She reckons, and I wasn't that great on socials, but I kind of knew what I was doing, but I definitely made sure I asked for her advice on the social media. Yeah. And I was like, cool. Kind of just like trying to have a bit more of a chat. Yeah. Well, not at that point. I definitely wasn't shy at that point. And there was a good photo that Toyota Australia had taken of me at Homebush with my race suit off. Yeah. Because it was that hot at Homebush. And it actually...
Are you saying you were hot, or that it was hot that day?
It was sweaty. Yeah. It was a hot day.
This is the prime Tinder photo type of thing.
And so I was like that, and I kind of had like a few veins popping out of my neck, and like I looked all right. Yeah. I'm gonna say it. And so I said to Liz, "This is my best performing post," because Toyota Australia posted it as well.
Yeah.
So technically it was. Yeah. So that was my best asset on socials at that point.
Toyota's your wingman here.
They are, yeah. So I had to show Liz that, and then like I could see her sweating on the other side of the table, and I was like, "Dang, we're on here." No, she wasn't really. She's like, what a wanker. But no, and then we just hit it off, and like shit. I found out about her music career, and we had so much in common with the struggles and
do you remember your first date though, where you went?
Yeah, it's we're actually going there tonight, funnily enough, 5 years later. Nice. So, it's on Erskine Street. It's called Poppy's Bar. Yep. And it's like a old school little, bar. Like it's just like all different bits of wood and
nostalgic.
Stuff. Yeah. It actually reminds me a bit of an English pub. So we sank a lot of Young Henrys that night.
Oh, I love Young Henrys. That's my favourite beer.
Yeah, it's good, eh? Yeah. Liz introduced me to Young Henrys.
It's so good.
That was good. She was pretty, like we were both pretty spent by that point, and I had to get a train home all the way to the coast that night. So
wait, she was living in Sydney? Was
she? Liz was in Sydney.
Yeah, right at the time, and she's moved. Then she moved up the coast when you two.
Yeah. A few years later. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So how long? When was it like official?
Oh, that's
like when you moved in together, or was it like?
No, it was more actually towards Bathurst that year. Yeah. So.
So was it within the year that you decided to just?
Yeah. So we met in March, and then by October it was like. I didn't want to get tied down too much at that point, and neither did Liz.
Yeah.
Did ya? I think we were both cautious about getting into like too much of a serious relationship, because I was so focused on racing. Yeah. I told a previous girlfriend that racing was my priority one. And
I did that mistake.
Yeah, that didn't work out. So,
it never works out.
It never works out very well. But Lizzie's definitely level on priority one. She nudges over the line sometimes. She out-qualifies racing. So,
have you learned a lot about music and radio and stuff like that? Like with her?
Yeah, 100%. Like Liz has been such a good influence on me. From like how I go about business to like communicating with people and all that sort of stuff, and we just like teamwork everything, and that's the best thing is like you just get to spend every day with your partner, and like if you love someone, what more would you want to be doing with your life? You just want to hang out with them all day, and that's what we get to do. So it's cool.
Before we go, how did you guys handle lockdown? Because I saw a few like social posts from Liz's end and your end. Like, how did that staying indoors? You were eager as a beaver. You did the TCR online series thing that Bart hated, and I did too.
Yeah, that was frustrating. Timmy Brook was extremely frustrated too. We were both venting to each other, going, "Oh, racing's fucked. This isn't real."
You hit a car and you go straight through it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you brake at like the 50-meter board, and there's someone braking at like the 20, and you're like, "Can't do that." So that was interesting, but it was hard for both of us because obviously being events industry focused, I'd gone out of full-time work in a very safe industry to being pretty volatile with motorsport like normally, and then when you throw COVID into that mix, it just wipes it off the face of the earth. So like revenue from events was gone, and sponsorship, having a name on a car, doing ride days, doing, like public speaking for the sponsors at events and all that sort of stuff was gone. Like Liz couldn't book tours. The music industry though is still struggling. It is,
It's the one that's the most furthest behind at everything at the moment.
Yeah, that became pretty apparent when you could see like the NRL and stuff being able to just go and do whatever they wanted
with their cardboard cutout fans.
Exactly, and then the music industry had nothing, couldn't do a gig, couldn't do anything, and they all very creative people who were involved in that industry trying to find workarounds and do virtual events like virtual Instagram live concerts and stuff like that, and still got no funding from the government, which is a bit of a joke considering that it's such a big industry. And then you got ScoMo playing the ukulele on 60 Minutes, and you're like, how much do you really like music?
And then him getting blinded by a welder. Yeah, to top it off.
Mate, let's not go down the politics route.
We're not.
Definitely not. This isn't a politics podcast.
Definitely not a politics podcast.
It's been good, man.
It's been
really good.
It's been good catching up. I definitely want you guys to have a fantastic date night out tonight.
Thank you very much.
I'm planning that with Brooke. Hopefully tonight, if she's
good
keen.
Stuff.
It's going to be a bit late. I've got to have to hopefully get to the Northern Beaches for her. And
bloody hell. Northern Beaches, eh?
Yeah, that's where she lives. So I'm going to have to scoot across that way where you guys go on your date.
Look out.
Yeah, but dude, it's been awesome having you on. And maybe in another episode we'll get you on and we can have some more banter or something like that.
Absolutely, man. No worries. Hopefully we can go to a doggies game or something.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, hopefully they're up the ladder a bit more.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Cheers for having me on, Luke.
Thanks, man. See you guys.